All right, Coach Powell, we're in the new place. Going to try to do these Q&As again a little bit more. So I guess the question that I have this week is, a couple weeks back you were talking to me, I think in a conversation or whatever, about the Dunning-Kruger effect. And so my question is, what's the difference between the Dunning-Kruger effect in an athlete versus impostor syndrome in an athlete? Is there, do you have thoughts on that? Is it related to ego? Is it like mental strength? Is, balance? What are your thoughts?
I think in my opinion, the Dunning-Kruger effect is it's in a lot of gyms. It's in a lot of people in general.
In like 2 sentences, can you explain the Dunning-Kruger effect?
Dunning-Kruger effect is basically like me as an individual. Like I say, like I'm this world champion bowler. Like I can bowl a 210 and above on average. And in reality, it's more like 160 to 135. But I think I can hit it just because I did it once or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think I'm better than I really am. And some of it is ego, some of it is pride, and some of it is just, delusion, arrogance, all that kind of stuff. It's like people not being honest with themselves. Like, look, like I'm decent. Like even in jiu-jitsu, I'm not great, but it's just more to like coaching than just, in my opinion, it's more than just coaching. It goes kind of beyond the mats, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For me, anyway. It doesn't mean that I'm like being lazy and not trying to evolve my game or anything like that. I still do it, but I think for me personally, having more skill sets, is kind of what I'm after as well. Not that I'm the greatest at jiu-jitsu, but I've reached a certain point where I just keep evolving. I'm still evolving, but at the same time, I want to tackle more skill sets that I find valuable, not just in life, but as quote unquote martial artists as well.
Sure.
And the imposter syndrome is where you think kind of like you're not good at enough, or like, oh, I'm not like people all the time. It's a common thing in jiu-jitsu. It's like, oh, I'm not a brown belt yet, and your coach is like, no, it's time to kick you out the nest type of thing. You need to start growing. And if you feel you're not there yet, then get better, train more, drill more. Whatever it takes to get better, rise to the occasion type of thing. So a lot of people have that imposter syndrome because they're trying to compare themselves to the young kid. So in jiu-jitsu, for us, it's kind of like, yes, there's young kids that are better, but that doesn't, just because they submit you does not mean they have more knowledge than you. It just means they're in better shape, they're stronger than you, they're quicker than you, they're younger than you. That's a legitimate thing. So a lot of these guys have to understand is that it's still knowledge based no matter what. Like a 20-year black belt been through more situations and variables than you have in 8 years.
Yeah.
But you're submitting him. Okay, that doesn't really mean much. It doesn't mean you know what he knows. There's thousands and thousands of hours he spent on the mats that's been through different things, jiu-jitsu wise, that he can show you. You know what I'm saying? So that imposter syndrome's kind of like that, because a lot of guys that are ready for the next step, they go, oh, I'm not ready yet, because they feel inadequate because they roll with, blue belt Joe or, white belt Joe, and they're tough, or they're this or they're that. They come from wrestling like you did.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a natural base of grappling already. So it's kind of both.
Yeah.
In jiu-jitsu.
So when you've given that the definition of the Dunning-Kruger as well as your definition of the imposter syndrome, how does someone find balance? And obviously the Dunning-Kruger, it wouldn't be a good thing to think so much higher of yourself, but also you don't want to think so low of yourself that, it's sort of like, you're putting yourself down, or you're just not being honest with your skill set. How do you find a balance between those two?
Yeah, that's for each individual, I think, and it's a self-inventory. You have to like be honest with yourself, like how people say the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror. You have to look at. So you have to just be honest. Like, look, man, like, my X guard is terrible. My open guard is terrible. Like, I'm good with close guard, whatever. You have to just be honest with yourself, and that's the individual thing that has to happen. You have to, be honest enough, because that's what's actually hindering your growth. Is when you're not honest enough, because you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, thinking you're getting better, and you're really not.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like maintaining, and you're hindering your evolution of the art that you can possibly get to just by your mindset or arrogance or whatever you want to call it. On the other end, the imposter syndrome, I think too, is it's being okay with accepting positive feedback and negative for the other side, right? So both the imposter can take the negative constructive criticism, like, hey, your De La Riva is weak because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, great. Thank you. But just because I said your De La Riva is not great doesn't mean you're not great at other things. Like, take the compliments. Be okay with accepting that you are good enough. So be like receptive to the positive feedback as well as the corrective criticism, because usually the imposter syndrome is good about accepting the constructive criticism,
Yeah.
to an extent, because they still believe they're not good enough. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of them being good with the constructive criticism, but also the positive, feedback they're getting. Just be okay with that too.
Do you have any advice for like any of the guys out there maybe watching this video in Sri Lanka or something, and their coach maybe isn't as as verbal as far as like how their game is? Mm-hmm. How can they find that balance if their coach really doesn't give them feedback? I know you're always positive with us, and you only ever good things, right? Smiles and daisies, but for those people, any advice for them?
Yeah, just man, that's a tough one. The advice I'd give to somebody that's not here is, watch anything that you can on YouTube, and listen to how multiple instructors teach, and listen to how they break stuff down, and try to apply it in your academy. Even if your coach isn't as vocal, like, listen to your teammates. If they're seeing or feeling, because they're one of the best receptors you have on the mat, is like your partner's like, dang man, like all of a sudden you just came out with this guard and you're killing me with it. Like, play off of that. Listen to other instructors, how they deal with certain techniques or something like that. Listen to different options, variables, different ways of doing the same move, and then listen to the feedback from your partners.
Good advice.
That's an excellent way to start adapting to what you're trying to do on the mat.
Wait, so I don't just drill in silence? I actually have to talk to my partner?
Yeah, you actually have to communicate with your partner. You can't just stare at each other in the eyes. You actually have to communicate with one another. So
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you, Coach.
Yep.